Buenos dias. Good morning, National Parent Union, Dad to Dad. We are here once again with you. We had to take a little bit of a pause, and we'll get into that topic in a minute. But just big, un abrazo fuerte, big love to our homegirl, Carrie and Tim, for what they're dealing with. Much love to you all and everything you've been dealing with. Life is life. 2020 is a crazy year. And our big fella, Mike, is out with his daughter, so he'll be here shortly. So I just want to welcome you. My name is Dr. Jose Manuel Villarreal. I am the father of Nathan Macario Noah Manuel, proud son of the late Jose Macario, and my mother down the hall, Maria Irene. Welcome, everybody. Let's start with Tim.
Hey, everyone. Good to see you guys after a week off. Again, appreciate your support for me and Kerry. Love to all of you guys. It makes a difference. So I'm Tim Langen from the National Parents Union. Very proud son of Jimmy and Patty Langen, and proud father of Matthew, Miles, David, Max, and Dylan. Good to see you guys.
Hey, John, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Tim, you and Carrie, blessings and love your way, man, always. John Monteleone, son of Joseph and Lynette Monteleone, proud father of Rochelle and Antonia Monteleone. Here in Northeastern Ohio, enjoying some 76-degree sunny weather, which is not too common here, so taking advantage of it. Good to be with you, fellas. Back in the bubble of love.
Back in the bubble of love. I appreciate that. Mike, where you at?
Hey, can you hear me, y'all?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
All right, I am on location with daughter Addison, Michael Scott, proud son of Vassie and Mershila, and definitely proud father of Addison and Grayson. Much love to all you brothers.
All right, so we're going to get into the topic. We're going to continue the conversation we had with Mr. Scott, who came and talked to us a couple weeks ago, related to finances. But let's talk about finances related to wills, trusts. I know we're left with some homework to take care of, and the question is, what have we done with it? And also, how are we sort of leveling up our own children related to credits? You can give your children credit cards early. You could do that when they're 16, 15 and let them build that credit. So I'll start with Tim. Tim, you shared a lot on social media. Again, appreciate that. But I'm curious, did you do some self-reflection as a dad about, God forbid something happens to you, but are you ready with the will, the trust? Are you ready with life insurance? I mean, where are you at?
Well, I can tell you I'm not ready at all. I've got the paperwork from AAA next to my bed for life insurance. But I'll just tell you, just from this past week, it's really been an experience of how ill prepared I am, and how people do need to prepare. They said that Carrie's mom unfortunately passed away, and unfortunately it just doesn't stop with the funeral. There's the stuff that people don't talk about, which is the financial and the money side. So we're going through life insurance paperwork, the will, those things, tracking down the primary care physician, trying to get the retirement fund all together, all those things. It's very complicated, but I have, with 5 boys, I want to make sure that everyone, if anything happens to me, God forbid, that they have something to fall back on. Funerals aren't cheap, bills aren't cheap. So no, I'm not. So I'm looking at that AAA life insurance policy. I want to fill that out. I want to see what I have, definitely up my retirement fund, and make sure that they have a pocket if anything happens, and write that will. Definitely write that will, because I've had friends whose family members have passed away suddenly. The house might be in someone's name, but that money isn't, and it's not clear, and then families get into fights. And I want things to be as simple as possible.
Yeah, I grew up in a poor community, rural, in terms of blue collar. And I remember car washes. Let's get a car wash going to pay for services, get a car wash going. And then now the car wash has turned into a GoFundMe in today's culture.
Yep.
And so I'll tell you, 2016 in March, my father passed away, and he was about 15 days in the hospital, and I saw him go through that sort of pneumonia, and he was in his 80s, and all of a sudden the social worker started coming through with, here's power of attorney document. Here's the rights to life. I'm like, man, what is this? And at the same time, this happened out of town. So I had to host family members. So I had to rent a house and host them and my mother. And, that cost me altogether with the burial, the services, hosting people for 15 days outside of my town, darn near 10 grand, easily 10 grand. Yeah, I know 10 grand. I'm an educator, but I had to come up with it somehow. It's probably more than 15, to be honest. And so that hit me hard, and I immediately bought myself my plot. That's ready to rock, because we buried in my hometown. And I started thinking about, okay, I got to get my will together, because what happens, because I don't want both of my sons to be fighting over this memorabilia that doesn't need to be fought about. Did you find anything happening, something like that, where there's some issues there?
Not in this case, but I can tell you other family members that have fought over things like, so I had a great grandmother who lived in the North End in Boston. She was like right off the boat from Italy, and she had these little knickknacks and really like incredible furniture from 1930 something, and that's what people fought over. And it was horrible, because it was just, you want to have this memory, and then people are fighting over a really nice dresser, and pettiness like that. So yeah, I've seen that. It gets ugly, and when it gets to houses, forget about it.
John, when I was clearing out my parents' rental, they've been there forever. It's a little rental trailer. I had family come, and I say, yo, take what you need to take. I said, I'm gonna take my mother with me, and maybe a couple things from my pop, and I'm not gonna get into anything. Y'all do what you got to do, and you wrestle with whatever, and they grew up broke too. But John, what's some reflections you've had related to our last conversation about money with Mr. Scott, and then what happened to Tim, and sort of how we're ready as dads?
Yeah, so that had a huge impact on me, and it really got the fire lit underneath me and the ball moving. And it's really a shame that it took that conversation, because I lived through the experience with my mom. When my mom passed away in 2011, she didn't have anything in place either. And I went through with my brothers and sisters and with my father, the financial burden of putting my mom to rest and having to deal with, everything from bank accounts to, to the house and those sorts of things. And so going through that, you would have think that experience in itself would have been an aha moment, said, hey, John, maybe you should get something in place. But, it didn't. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but, the conversation with Vancy, it really lit a fire under me. And it was weird, because I called my dad, and I asked my dad, I said, hey, who did you go through, to get your will and everything in place? And so, he put in contact me. But what I also learned through that experience is my dad, who was in his mid-80s, has some things to take care of. So we're going to go to the lawyer together in October, later in the month in October, to get things squared away. And the reason being is because, like you guys know, I'm the youngest of 13, but we're not the Brady Bunch. And so, my dad knows that when he passes away, there's going to be some infighting, and there's going to be some kids that are going to be jockeying for position. And he doesn't want, me and, some other siblings in our family to have to go through that, because in his mind, it's really cut and dry and clear who's going to get what, who's going to be the beneficiary of this, and who's going to be the one that takes over the estate, when the time comes. And so there's some things that he has to clean up. So we're going to go together. I'm going to get my stuff in order. He's going to make sure that, his things are in order as well. So that's where we're at. And so I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of sad that, I'm 44 years old and still getting these things in place, but, but life comes at you fast. And I have a niece who's 29 years old, and she just got out of the hospital yesterday for a 5-day visit with double pneumonia.
Wow.
So, she has a daughter and a husband. No matter the age, Jose, Tim, and Mike, as you guys know, it can happen. And, the one thing that Mr. Vancy Scott said that, stuck with me is your family's already going to go through the pain and agony of losing you, the emotional pain and agony. Don't make them go through the financial pain and agony.
Well, I'll tell you, man, God is good, but God has a plan.
He does.
So you better make one for yourself quick, because you don't know what that plan is. But Mike, What are your thoughts on what happened here after speaking to your pop? We're really proud of that conversation. Also reflecting on what Tim's going through.
Yeah, so obviously we're kind of at a advantage from the standpoint of my parents. You know, their house is in order because, well, you know, he practices what he preaches.
Mhm.
And, you know, my house is relatively in the same in regards to will and things like, you know, financial orders. So they're taken care of. They're good. But one element that we spent time talking about is I have a brother that is mentally handicapped and is dependent upon my parents. So our conversation shifted to the roles and responsibilities of me. Heaven forbid something were to happen to my parents, who are both, you know, healthy right now. But as we've said, you know, life, God has his plan, right? So, you know, just thinking of things in regards to what's going to make him comfortable. You know, what does caretaking look like for me with my family unit and adding my brother to the mix? What do I need to know about his medication?
You're going out a little bit,
You know,
buddy.
those little
Yeah,
details that. What's that?
You're breaking up a
You're
little
going out a
bit.
little bit if you want to bring the video down.
Bit to the house too. We are back home. But as I was saying,
You're breaking up there, Mike. All right, we'll get back to Mike. So just, you know, it's interesting thinking about how would we take care of that, Mike? I wanted you to continue your thought.
Yeah.
But just thinking about, you know, what happens after? I mean, we get the services, we get the memorials, we get the family time, but it's the after that's long lasting, right?
yeah. Sorry, I'm bouncing back in.
You're all right. You're all right.
Good man.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what the conversation between my dad and my mom were. So, heaven forbid something happens to them. What are the, you know, lasting effects for our family? What does it mean to, for me, be a caretaker of my brother, who I've always, you know, always have had a close relationship with, even though he's nonverbal, autistic. We communicate as though, you know, normal brother relationship would be. But there's another layer when, you know, so now my wife, you know, I'm working, she's still at home. So now she's the primary caretaker and she hasn't had those type of experiences. So really talking about what that conversation is. Like right now we have a 3-bedroom home. That's great for our family, but now you add another adult to the mix. What does that look like? My brother's autism is full of routines. He's living at home in a nice home that he's comfortable with, all his routines. So do we move? Like all these conversations that I don't, you know, I've always, well, I haven't put on the front because you just don't, well, I've never wanted to think in that reality. But that was the conversation that we had after he was on the show, after my dad was on the show with us. And it was hard. It was really hard. It was hard to think about the inevitable. But then to think about the impact, the layers of planning, and I want to call it disruption. You never want to call family disruption, right? But the change. And change is difficult. Like, change for all. So that was really where we went. We haven't resolved much yet because, I mean, that's a lot of layers. So, yeah.
I want to have a little homework assignment for next week, fellas. I started writing down years ago, and I just found it in my garage, like 25 pieces of advice for my children. And I just started scribbling it down. So like if something happened to me, I was going to put this in some kind of digital format and leave that behind.
Great idea.
Let's leave that as homework for next week's show.
Love
you
that.
know, what are your top 5 pieces of advice you want to leave your children? And I got like 25 I just scribbled on. But I want to get to the next real topic here, fellas, because it's a real topic. And I want to start with Tim. Again, I'm not trying to put it out into the air, right? But if something happens to us, God forbid, Where do you stand on your spouse remarrying?
Ooh, you know,
Let's start with you, Tim.
I'm fine with it. You know, I mean, because I'm not going to be there. You know, not my problem. But honestly, I mean, I think if you love your spouse now,
Yeah.
you're always going to want her to be happy.
Okay.
No matter what form of happiness that takes, you know. So that's not something that I would that would bother me at all. I would want someone that would take good care of her, respect my kids, because the last thing I want is, and you know, we see that in children a lot now. Hey, honey, we see that in our kids now, because you know, Matthew, Miles, and David, this was a double hit for them. You know, their father died last year, and then their nana died suddenly. They were still dealing with the first loss. You know, the last thing I want someone to do is to live in like my death, you know, and to be sorrow. I would want I would want Carrie to move on, and live their life. So I would be fine with it.
Yeah. John, what about you? I know you've told what I think we've described before, an unusual success story, right? About your spouse, your ex-spouse, right? And how she's found somebody and you have a good relationship and everything's good. But with your partner, similar concept. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Tim. You know, I look at my father, and you know, he has chosen to live the rest of his days alone. And there's sometimes that my heart goes out to him. You know, and thankfully, you know, he has found a lot of committees, I mean, causes that take up his time throughout the day, on the weekends. But I think when my heart bleeds the most for him is in the evening hours, of just being alone, not having that connection, not having that personal touch. You know, he seems to be happy. He seems to be, you know, his relationship with the Lord is really what he says that all he needs right now. But I think, you know, as long as, you know, that my partner is okay with moving on, I want her to be happy. You know, like, life is tough, and to go at it alone, almost unimaginable. So definitely.
Yeah, my mom's in the same boat. You know, 4 years now, been sitting here alone, ain't interested in nothing else, wants to be alone, has a relationship with the Lord, same thing. You know, I think it's time and place, perhaps, you know. I mean, what do you think, Mike?
So I plan on being like put in some sort of chamber and frozen, so that when medical science kicks in, I can be
Walt
brought
Disney.
back. So
Walt Disney.
The answer is no. Absolutely not. And if you do choose, I'm going to disrupt that mess when no. I am totally playing. I'm sorry. I just had to change the vibe just a little for a little bit, right? But the reality is, you know, I think I've said this a lot during the shows. Choose wisely. That would be my only, you know, request. Is because, you know, that decision impacts Grayson and Addison. So choose wisely, and I trust her that she would, because clearly she's chosen wisely already. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, Tim, I think it's a time and place scenario, right? I mean, I think that if I'm at my 70s, you know, what am I going to be doing? You know, I'm good. I'll go out and do some. Yeah, yeah.
Parties or something.
Oh, I'm done. Like I'm done. It's a wrap. Like it's been, this journey has been great and full of, but nah, man, I'm good. Like,
I would, at that point, I wouldn't want anybody touching my remote. I know where it is.
Yeah.
I know where, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know I know I have plenty of milk and plenty of things to drink. Nobody's gonna empty those up. So yeah,
hey, I got one for Carrie.
Go ahead.
I got one for Carrie though. Like, I've been trained, so someone would have to retrain me, and that's not happening. So, you know, like our better halves have done well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
Tim, you've been trained up, and I can see it. So,
I'm gonna write that down. Per Michael Scott.
But you know, to that point, Mike, and being one of the two guys that has gone through a divorce on this show, I never want to go back to the days of dating, man. Like,
Oh,
No.
man.
I don't know, Tim. I don't know how it
Oh.
was for you, man, but being in the late 30s and trying to date in the 21st century, woo, I
I
don't
didn't
wish
know
that
what was
upon
going on.
nobody.
I remember like I had been off the market for like 10, 12 years, and all of a sudden I was on, I forget if it was OK Cupid, Plenty of Fish, Match, I don't know what the hell it was. And I'm flipping through all this stuff, to each his own, polyamorous, this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And I remember showing up for my first date after I got divorced. I didn't know how to dress. I was wearing like khakis that I had from 12 years ago. And it was brutal. It was like I was in junior high again. It was horrible. Yeah, I'm all set with that. And
Yeah,
plus, it's not, plus like you said, Jose, we're in a routine now.
yeah.
We get a certain pattern every day. I know the shows I like to watch.
Yeah.
I know the shows Carrie likes to watch. I'm all set. Don't touch my Flickr. No. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Oh.
So where do you all stand on credit, giving credit to your kids, credit cards, putting them on early in their age, 15, 16 years old, like some of these companies will allow you to do? I mean, to help them start to build some wealth, some credit history. You guys into that at all?
So we just had this conversation, Dawn and I, with Antonia going off to Ohio State. So we did have her open up a line of credit. So she has a credit card. The only thing that she does put on the credit card, though, kind of going back to our conversation with Mike's dad, are things that are those monthly occurrences that she's going to have anyways and just pay off, right out of her checking account. So gas, car insurance, and the internet at the house that she lives at. So those are the only three things. No purchases of clothes or anything like that, movie tickets, concert tickets, none of that jazz. So that's kind of where we are with her, just so she can establish some credit.
What about you, Mike?
So first I said no, then I listened to John, as I always, as it's just been a nature of our relationship. First I have an opinion, then I listen to John, and he helps school me up a bit. So I'll say this: I'm not gonna, judge my kids or set them up based upon my sins of the past. Meaning, when I first got that first credit card, it was like, it's all they popping. Swipe, gear, swipe, swipe. And then the next month came and it was like, oh, damn. Let me just pay this minimum off that I have to. And then I was paying that minimum off for like ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I still had Pops who was telling me the game. I didn't care. I was trying to live my best life.
Mm.
So I guess the adjustment that I would make is I still have to own that. So like it may be in her name or Grayson's name, but they only get to spend it, you're talking about that 16, 17, piece. They only get to spend it when I'm with them, and then I'll be the one to make sure that it's paid off so they can get a start. But then I don't know what I'm going to do when it comes to college. Hopefully they've learned enough where they can, use responsibly. And I'll take that advice that John said. So the gas, the things that we know we can pay off and we will pay off, we're going to have that ongoing conversation until it becomes a habit, right? And those habits didn't kick in for me until, late 20s? So I guess that would be my approach. At first I was like, oh, hell no. Sins of the past. But
there's that trauma. There's that trauma. Yep.
Well, I'm picturing my kids right now. They can't even manage the remote learning schedule on their own. So I'm picturing like a 9-year-old with a credit card. Jesus Christ.
Well, Tim, that's what helped in the decision with Antonia is because, she was connected to my cell phone account, So trust me, if I would have been getting hundreds of dollars of Candy Crush apps, like that would have been a tell. Like, nah, you probably can't handle a credit card because I'm paying $47 extra a month because you want to crush candies all night long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we've had to shut down the V-Bucks Fortnite charges a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would do is I'd love to. The one part I loved about Mr. Scott's story was when he talked about my kid, not to put him on the spot, getting free college if he hit a certain GPA, and how Mike didn't hit it, and then he took ownership and how he valued that. You know, that really stuck with me, because that's one thing that I really want to instill in my kids, a sense of ownership. Like, you get to an age and you go to college, and I'm going to give you this credit card, and again, it has to have miles, got to earn the miles, and but that if they screw up with that in some way, that they own that, because I can't be watching them forever, you know. And I had to battle my way out of crappy credit in my early 20s that was burning me in my early 30s. You know, I'd really want to instill that ownership with them, so that they can. I think it helps them grow. It helps them grow.
Yeah, and my trauma is, you know, I'm trying to get my son a credit card as soon as I can, because I need to change the cycle of people of color, and I need to start coaching them up now. And so I'm going to do that as early as I can. Add him onto my account or get him his own, even if he's just in high school. I got to do it now, and I got to try to do my best to try to get him to not carry the debt that I have. Because I sat one day, you guys all seen these equity walks where you line your staff up in a wall and you say, if you've ever been, take a step forward. If you've ever been, take a step forward. And it shows the differences in classism and in racism. And I did that once with the group and included a couple students in it so they can get the perspective. And you saw the students shoot way to the front because they had so many barriers in front of them. But I made that comment to say, look, because I grew up first generation, poor background, broke background, I'm behind the starting line. I'm not, and right now in my mid 40s, I'm just at the starting line. So I'm barely getting started with this. I don't know if I told you guys this, but in my last organization, you know, I was an assistant suit, and I had a predominantly of color staff. And both support staff and teachers. I said, you know what I'm gonna do? We did a 2-year series of financial talks, and we put a little asterisk to it. And we said this is for entertainment purposes only, because we're not financial advisors, but we told our story related to finances. I put my credit scores up. I showed everybody my credit scores. And they're like, you're the bravest person in the world. I'm like, why are we so afraid to talk about money? I said, here we're sitting here, people of color, and we're all just afraid about how, and so you know what happened after that? I started hearing whispers. Hey, Dr. V, I appreciate that. After that, I went to look at my score. I'm trying to improve it. I did, because my scores ain't in the 800s, everybody. They're not in the 700s either in some cases. So it's like, I'm going to speak my truth and say, look, I'm not trying to be better than y'all. I'm just trying to tell you, this is my path. This is my journey, you know? And I think that sometimes is a value you can add back, but I'm coming full circle to any debt that we might leave behind to our kids. What would be that debt if something unexpected happened to us, John?
Jose,
they may have to deal with.
It is so powerful what you just said, because, you know, in part of the conversation that I had with Antonia, you know, dealt with it, the trauma that I was through, like Tim, in my early 20s. Like, I remember, and I know this sounds crazy, and I don't know if anybody that's listening to this podcast or on this panel that can empathize with this, but I remember in my 20s almost getting physically ill in my stomach when I would check my bank account, like, because I wouldn't know if I was going to be in the negative or how far in the positive I would be. The scare of just opening the line of credit and the embarrassment of, you know how you get that, like, oh, you get that immediate gratification, like you got a line of whatever amount of money, but then you also get that, like, oh, you'll hear back in 3 to 5 business days, and you know what that means. So I just, you know, I shared that trauma, I guess you could say, with Antonia, like, don't go through that. Like, learn from me, you know, learn from your dad, because there is nothing that is more depressing than clicking on that app on your phone and being afraid of opening that checking account and not knowing what you're going to see. Like, that is a scary feeling, and I don't wish that upon anybody. But I know that there are thousands and millions of Americans that go through that every day, and it's something that we can prevent, just like you said, Jose, with some education.
And I think beyond our role as educators, we got to be thinking about as human beings. Mike, even today, this morning, swipe that card in front of that person, I still have that tinge of, come on. Better be approved, okay, it's approved. To this day,
Wow.
I have that tinge of, come on. Because I've been in a situation too many times where it's like, sir, I'm like, dang. And, it's a mess up. It's that, but nah, bro, it was me. It was like, come on.
Right.
So Mike, I mean, I think about the debt we might leave back to our kids, but I'm also talking about the knowledge debt. How much are we
Right.
coaching them up if we pass suddenly on this kind of stuff that'll make them free?
Yeah. So when you posed that question, that's where my brain went straight to, was the knowledge debt, because I'm fortunate enough, blessed enough that the financial, when I go, they are going to receive in excess. That it's just been the way I've been able to set it up. It's now generational because of my dad, and so, and even on my my wife's side. So financially, it's going to be their responsibility to figure out how to pay it forward and not be scavengers with it, not be
Wasteful.
So
Yep.
to me, that right. So the knowledge piece is that, but then also, from time to time, and I want to do this more regular. So this is you touched my heart when you posed that question. Like, I've been writing, and I write to them. It started from with Addison before she was born. And I just leave what I like to think of them as pearls, but just thoughts and reflections. Admittance of the fact that your dad was not, because I hope my parents as superheroes. So what I'm trying to leave them is the fact that no, Dad is not a superhero. He's flawed in many ways. And here's some of those examples. Here's some learnings. Here's how I deal with depression. Because even in writing about that, I mean, this has been a rough week. Highs and lows of emotions from a personal and professional standpoint. So I jot down a little bit of things. So I guess that's what I want to, make sure that, and although there'll be some debt of knowledge, right? You can't, we try to give them everything that we have. For those things that I don't give through experience or conversations, I'm hoping to leave behind in personal self-reflections.
What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think that's I'm so glad you said that, Michael. That's the thing that really worries me. The financial stuff should definitely worry me. I have a huge list here of everything we've been talking about that I'm going to be hopefully doing by the next show. But whenever I think about passing suddenly, that's always a thing that worries me. What didn't I share with my boys? Mm-hmm. What did I want to pass on to them? I didn't spend enough time doing, X. I wish I had done that more. I wish I had told them this so that they don't make the same mistakes. Yeah, I love that idea of journaling and writing that down, man, so they can pick that up. I was actually trying to Google the movie. There was that great Michael Keaton movie, My Life, where he knew he had like a year to live, and he videotaped things for his life for his kids. Mm-hmm. But something like journal, I think, is really important, so that kids can, like, I know my grandfather as like this nice grandfather, but I wish I could go back and actually pick up and be like, well, what was he really like when he was a dad and like not just a grandfather? What can I learn from that? And I want my kids to have that too, especially if it happens suddenly.
Yeah. So you just helped me there, Tim, too. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it old school, paper pencil, but man, why not leverage, technology so they can see the emotions that come behind the words too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I'd recommend on that, so you don't have to overproduce it, is just get a little whiteboard and put your little statement of that message and just pop it up and then talk. And then the next one, talk. That way you don't have to worry about editing and splicing or whatever. That's what I learned to do early on, because then you get caught up on, well, I gotta edit it. No, man, just talk. little whiteboard about your little statement, and then it just becomes a thing and makes it easier. So that's what I would do, new dads, right now. I'd recommend is you start to journal. Next week, we're going to talk about our top 5 pieces of advice for our kids is what we're all going to bring to the table. But really right now, I would say, what are we going to commit to? Hearing what happened to Tim and Carrie and knowing what happened in our lives, people that have passed, what are we going to follow up to Mr. Scott's last talk that needs to happen? I heard already from John about October, but let's kick it up a notch. What else can we be doing? What about you, John?
I think what I've been trying to do more is after that episode, I went to our finance department and started putting more away into the credit union. So I've already had money that was just taken right off the top to the credit union. But after that episode, I increased it a little bit, and it's an account that it goes into. I don't think about it, but I know it's in there. And I'll be honest with you, when COVID hit, it came into some great assistance. I dipped into it a little bit, and thank God it was there. So yeah, that's what I did.
What about you, Mike? How are you going to chip away at that debt of knowledge or the knowledge debt that's there? How are you going to chip it away at that for your kids?
Well, one of the things I got to work on is just being more present. So like something as simple as going on that bike ride before the show.
Mm-hmm.
That matters. That's an investment, right? So heaven forbid something were to happen, it's just that's my bank account, right? So even though they're 3.5 and 2.5 right now, the more deposits I can make. So when that inevitable withdrawal does come, they've got that to bank on. So I've got to do better. And I think also with my wife, I gotta make some more emotional deposits there. Because I've been talking about what happens to me, to the kids, what happens to my significant other, and that's important too, because she would be carrying on the legacy, the family traditions, and we have to establish those. So we have to invest in those now, in the present, living as though we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and that's a hard thing. I know we're short on time, but man. That invincibility that, I still wear the 42-year-old. I don't think about, I don't take each day as it's like the blessing that it is. It's just, it's a day. I don't wake up like it's on purpose. Like for instance, this morning I woke up thinking of all the struggles and all the things that I had to do and how to try to do those work things over the weekend and then mask some family time in between. And it was a real struggle. So I woke up with that instead of waking up thinking like, man, this could be the last. So how do I make the best out of it? So I guess that's going to be my challenge. And it's an ongoing challenge, but that's got to be the focus.
Yeah, Tim. So, we got to continue, as you're saying, collecting those chips of love and chips of knowledge, so we can bank them in one day. What about you, Tim? What are you going to be working on?
I'm going to take a really simple step from this long list. I'm just going to fill out that AAA life insurance thing that's been sitting on my bedroom table for, honestly, since about August. Just get it out of the way, mail it in. No muss, no fuss. But speaking of getting chips of love in, I want to make one thing clear, and we can play the Looney Tunes theme now because it's that segment. Babe, Carrie, when I said don't touch my Flickr, because this is coming from, I was not referring to you.
What?
I was not referring. You can play with the Flickr anytime you want to, honey. I'm saying that no one else.
Oh, man.
My sharing the Flickr days are over. We like the same shows. I watch MSNBC when you want to. It's okay. It's okay. You can touch.
Oh, man.
I'm saying I don't want to share my Flickr with anyone else.
I am signing off.
Yeah. We should just end the recording session
I
right
had a few
there.
comments in there, so I had to answer that.
That's a wrap, folks.
I think next episode I want to talk about Flickr etiquette.
That's right. That's right.
And if my wife
Is there a time of
play my
day?
Flickr anytime too. I don't know.
There's a comment on Facebook here. Don't touch my Flickr. So romantic, he says.
touch my Flickr.
Oh, listen, everybody. It's been a great show, everybody. I can't thank you enough. That's the way to end the show. This is it. That's a wrap. And I can't with that, man. I mean,
Can't even top it.
Tim, get your top 5 pieces of advice, Tim, John, Mike, for next week. Who's hosting next week?
John Monteleone.
All right, John.
John.
Top 5 pieces of advice. It's a wrap, man. This has been a great episode, everyone. Again, a lot of love for your family, Tim and Carrie.
Thank you.
And know that you're not alone. We're here for you all. And know that everyone out there, dads, you're not alone. And moms being dads, you know you're not alone. So we're all just trying to be here every weekend, trying to give you some love. And remember, I just pulled this off. Remember, we created that a long time ago, the bubble of love, man. We're always here for all you all. And thanks again. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you, National Parents Union. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Flick, flick.
Bye.